Okay, so these people have interdimensional counsel. Behind the polished rhetoric of advanced civilizations and higher consciousness lies one of the most seductive deceptions of the modern age. Contact with fallen entities masquerading as ascended masters, spirit guides, or extraterrestrials. Whether through channeling, psychedelic gateways, or direct downloads in deep occult ritual, global influencers, tech elites, military contractors, New Age leaders receive counsel from beings that transcend the material plane. Now, this is stuff you can verify. A lot of these folks claim these things. In fact, if you go to YouTube and just type in using DMT to channel entities, you'll see all types of videos. Look at this. What are DMT entities? The entities that exist within psychedelics. What is a DMT trip-like, and who are the entities that you meet? And I've heard Alex Jones talk about a lot of the tech people that he knows and different people in government that talk about how government, CIA, DARPA, some of these secret programs, space programs, utilize DMT and ask people to take it, and then they monitor what they see, what they hear. So this is very common, but you can do the research on that. But these are not benevolent space brothers or evolved spirits. They are ancient rebels cast out of heaven, now rebranding themselves to a post-Christian world. Figures like Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, and even high-level government officials have documented contact with these intelligences, often under the guise of scientific or metaphysical progress. In truth, these encounters from a shadow Sanhedrin, a spiritual advisory board aligned with the throne of Satan, feeding instructions, technologies, and ideologies. If you go and you read the book of Enoch, you find out, or the book of Jubilees, the book of Enoch, the book of Jasher, I forget, it's been a while since I've read those, but I believe it's in the book of Enoch, it talks about how there were these, fallen ones, fallen angels that taught men how to create weapons of war. So this is not a new thing. There was fallen angels that taught men how to utilize psychedelics, even all the way back in the book of Enoch. So this is nothing new. And I think the last part of this sentence is very interesting. It says it's to accelerate global deception. So a spiritual advisory board aligned with the throne of Satan, these entities that people experience through DMT, feeding instructions, technologies, and ideologies to accelerate global deception. And that's what they were doing also in the book of Enoch. All right, financial command centers. We're going over here, the core of the Cabal. This is really part 2. If you go to the YouTube channel, part 1 of the core of the Cabal, Satan's throne and the war for earth is the first video, and it'll give you more context of this one. And we're going through just some components of the core, because if you don't know who it is that you're fighting and how they're operating, you're more likely to be deceived by them. The financial command centers. The Cabal's earthly power is upheld by financial thrones, centralized institutions that control currency, debt, and economic policy for entire nations. A good video for you to go see would be this one right here, Trump's Middle East Initiative, a sign of economic resurrection. Also, Elite's Game, Theater of the Elite, How the World Becomes Ritual Stage. If you'll take a look at those videos, it'll help give greater context. We go into the money side of the Cabal. The Federal Reserve, International Monetary Fund, IMF, and Bank for International Settlements operate as the economic priesthood of the Cabal, manipulating global markets and national sovereignty under the illusion of stability and progress. These institutions are not merely managing money, they are engineering dependence, perpetuating cycles of debt slavery that bind nations and individuals alike. Every policy, every interest rate hike, every manufactured crisis serves as a deeper agenda to replace organic exchange and national autonomy with a controlled global currency grid, a digital financial cage. Behind the boardroom doors and data dashboards is a throne room, and at its center sits Mammon, enthroned not in gold, but in algorithms and compound interest. So there's a financial command center that's a part of the core of the Cabal, and we go into greater detail in those other videos. But I talked about this, that when the Israelites were in Egypt, I always used to wonder, how did they become enslaved? Because they were given Goshen. How did they end up in slavery? And then Moses had to deliver them. And when you read in the book of Jasher, it lets you know that the way that Pharaoh got the Israelites enslaved was he pulled them out of Goshen by asking them to help build cities outside of Goshen, and they began to pay them money, and they got the Israelites used to using whatever Egyptians' money was at that time, and they got the Israelites purchasing Egyptian goods and basically getting used to the good Egyptian life. And then they set up leadership above them and started pulling back the money, and slowly they began to enslave the Israelites. So there's nothing new under the sun. This is what the Cabal does, is they get nations dependent on money that's loaned to them by the Cabal, and then those nations owe interest, and then the Cabal is able to bring about world events that hurt that country's economy, and then when that country can't pay back their money, they now are owned by the people who loan the money to them. I mean, it's pretty simple. So loan people money in a way that they can't pay back, create world events so that the people can have less of an ability to pay it back, and then now you own them, they become your slaves. Global governance schematics. The architecture of global control is not chaotic. It is meticulously designed through councils, summits, and think tanks that project a benevolent image while enacting totalitarian blueprints. Organizations like the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Trilateral Commission form the visible framework of what is, in essence, an emerging Tower of Babel. Disguised as humanitarian collaboration and sustainable development, these bodies craft policies that dissolve national sovereignty, rewrite human rights, and centralize power into the hands of unelected technocrats. Their speeches are laced with talk of equity and peace, but their goals are technocratic control, population management, and digital enslavement. The true aim is not cooperation, it is convergence, a single global system ruled not by the consent of the governed, but by the counsel of the damned. I had a time with the Lord where I said, Lord, why is it that we would pray against the one world government? We see it happening. We see technology getting to the place where they could easily track everybody. We know where this is headed. There will be eventually a one world government, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. The Bible prophesies of this. I said, so Lord, I don't want to pray against your will. Should I be praying that this one world government come about? And he said to me, not yet. It's not in your day that it's going to come about. There's going to be a reprieve. So pray for the reprieve now. And if you go back and watch some of our past videos, I talk about a word I got. I had a visit from an angel in 2006 where he showed me a vision of America being in a 40-year revival, that this revival would be, it started with a new leadership being mantled. And we're starting to see it. We're 20 years into this revival. And the Lord had told me back then, he said, no matter what you see in the news, no matter what you see happening in the world, you just keep declaring that America is in the midst of the greatest revival it's ever seen. And I believe that that's where we're at. And part of this revival, the first stage of the revival, is that a new leadership with new mantles has been learning how to steward their mantles, and the anointing on them is so great that it started to force the enemy out into the open. Bill Johnson, a famous preacher at Bethel Church in Northern California, says that the enemy, his last resort is to show his face. He'd rather you not know that he's there. And that's been the case in America. The enemy's been here all along, but it's been since like 2016, really since Trump became president, that all of this corruption has been exposed, and all of this craziness from lockdowns in 2020 to everything that we've seen over the last 5 years. And so I believe that this is a revival that's taking place that begins with whatever was behind the scenes causing all the bad stuff to happen has to really come forth and show its face, and then it's going to be pushed out of America. I believe that by the end of the 40 years, all of America will be saved. I believe that we will be completely out of debt. There'll be cities where if you just take people there, they'll get healed. And I've been commissioned and told by God, you just keep declaring. And this was an angel I could see with my eyes. There's a whole story behind it. But he said, keep declaring that America is in the midst of the greatest revival it's ever seen, a 40-year revival. And it won't be about church attendance. It will be about taking the entire nation. And I believe that is where we're at. So if you're finding out or hearing me talk about the global governance schematics and the New World Order, It's not because I think they're going to win in my lifetime. I think that they're going to win in the end before the Lord comes back. But it's important to see them, know what they're doing, and not fall into their traps. A lot of people that I know during 2020 listened and got the, this thing right here. Apparently you're not allowed to say it. You're not supposed to say it. I know people who died from it. I know people who, can I prove it? No, but they went to the doctor, and then next thing you know, they're sick and dying. They went to the doctor, next thing you know, myocarditis. They went to the doctor, next thing you know, they're developing Alzheimer. So many people maimed by ignorance. The Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So a lot of why I'm doing these videos is really just it's my loaves and fishes that I'm giving offering to the Lord to help let as many people as I can let know from wherever I'm at in my maturity on this understanding, to help people not be deceived and maybe avoid some pain in their future.